Hello, and welcome to the next episode of the Live Your Spa Life show. Spa life is a lifestyle that accepts that accomplishment and harmony coexist. The spa and spa life, the SPA, is for seek power always. That power within you that allows you to do those bigger things that you are here to do. I am so thrilled to introduce to you our special guest for today, Alina Vincent. She's the CEO of the Business Success Edge, and she's the creator of the Profitable Online Challenges training. Alina, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. It's such a pleasure to do this with you today.
It's so great. I mean, I love that you bring such a diversity to what you do because you have a very analytical background. This is your zone of genius and the creative vision. And not everyone can actually bring those things together. Is that something that you've always had, or is that something that you cultivated?
Oh, it's a very interesting story because when I was growing up, when I went to school, everything was, both of my parents are professors of physics. My grandparents were professors of math. So my whole entire life was very analytical, very strategic, very sciencey. So even when I went to college, I had two choices for what I could study. It was either physics or math. So I chose physics. And my whole entire life was very much like problem solving, analysis, doing a whole bunch of research. And I've always had a creative outlet. I had to have it. Like I would go through this whole stretches of time where I would go and crochet for like 2 months or 3 months and would end up with a whole bunch of blankets, or would do photography. So I always needed to have that creative outlet, and I didn't even know that I wanted to have it or needed to have it. And then later on in life, when I got my master's degree, was working on my PhD, and was working teaching at the university, eventually I quit my job because it was just a little bit too much in the box. And then I started my first business as a photography business. So I went like a completely opposite direction. And I said, now I'm going to explore my creative side. And that didn't quite work because then I was missing the analytical part, the problem solving part. So I was only nurturing my creative side. And now was what I do, doing the business strategies. It's always interesting. It's always creative. And it's also analytical. So I feel like I'm finally in that perfect place when I can use both sides of my brain, both sides of what I love doing, what my passions are, and I can contribute to people so much more. So great question.
Thank you. That makes so much sense because, you know, with your passion around really packaging and monetizing people's knowledge and their expertise to create this leverage plan to be able to scale their business, you know, part of doing that is bringing all the different aspects of someone. So is this a platform you're able to create that takes all of those things into consideration?
Absolutely, because no person is the same. We're all different. We're all uniquely different. We all have different passions. We all have different skills. We all have different gifts. So bringing it together and helping people develop a product or an offer or a program that taps into what they're good at in their own unique way. So there are, of course, strategies. There's, of course, like, here's the steps to building a successful business, but you also have to see outside of the box. You have to look at even the energetics of who they are as the person and what they're bringing into the world to help them create that path that will be successful for them. So not everybody is on the same templated road. So that's where I feel where my strengths are, is looking at it both. Here's the strategies, here's the rules, here's how you do something in order to be successful and profitable. And on the other hand, how do you contribute like the uniqueness of you, the energy of you, who your passions are, which cannot be followed any template.
Right, right. Well, and as our dear friend Molly always says about your like ninja tips and tricks and things, you know, how is it that you simplify the complex, that you have them into actionable steps? Because that can be very overwhelming. I think that's some of the reason why some people don't step into the arena, is that it can feel like, oh, that's so much. How is it that you break that down for people?
And again, it has to do with what I've learned, which I never would have in 100 years guessed that would be the path to what I'm doing right now. But I actually have a degree in computer science and engineering. That's all problem solving. That's all step-by-step creating of the processes. I used to teach a class on how to do algorithms, and we were starting people with something really simple, like design a step-by-step process for somebody to get a soda out of a vending machine. And people would skip steps, or they would assume. It was just such an interesting exercise, because you don't realize all of the steps you're doing unless you have to write them down and explain to someone. So my brain just works that way. So anytime I'm looking at any process, breaking it down to the piece by piece step in a way that allows somebody who's not familiar with the process to follow it, that's what breaking it into simple step basically means. And you can train yourself to do it. You can start doing it on your own. Just think of if I were to just say, oh, just go put $1 into a machine and a soda pops up. And then they'll be standing there because they'll forget that they have to push the button because that's the step that was skipped. So there's so many little things. So this is what I kind of do for people. I help them figure out any process that's trying to create and break it into step by steps, and then only revealing the first 2 or the first 3 steps. Because where people get overwhelmed is if you tell them, here's the 73 steps that will take you there.
Right.
So it's kind of knowing, seeing that big process, seeing what the steps that lead to it, and only giving your clients the steps, like the next few steps, to empower them, to have them celebrate each success, and not to get them overwhelmed.
Oh, that reminds me of one of my favorite quotes by Clement Watt is take the first step, no more, no less, and the next step will be revealed.
Yes.
So I love that so much because people can get overwhelmed when they're thinking 3-4 steps down the road when they haven't taken that first one that actually can reveal a lot of different ways you can go once you've actually taken that step. So
yeah, that's exactly right. There's so many people who agonize over step number 10. They're like, how am I going to do it? And they don't take the first step because they're worried that they don't have the solutions or tools or skills for step number 10. So it's like, just do it one at a time, trust the process, trust your mentor, and everything will reveal itself.
Yes, I love that so much. And I love that you are systems focused, right? And to really look at those steps and breaking them down. And so that comes into like, you also bring that into your life, right? About how you design your life and what that looks like. Talk a little bit about how you always have a vision.
Yeah, that's a lot of people ask me, how do you not get overwhelmed? How do you get so much done? How do you always people say you create so much, you're always in action. And the reality is, if you have that big vision and you kind of have the plan, then it's a lot easier to say no to the distractions. So for example, right now I have a live event coming up in a couple of months. So anytime people ask me to do something like, would you like to be on a podcast interview, or would you like to speak at this event, or would you like to sponsor this? I always have this mental check. Does it help me get to my next big goal? And if it's a distraction, if it's something like, oh, wouldn't that be nice to have, but it doesn't have, it's not the value action that moves me forward with the project I'm currently working on, it's a no. It's not necessarily no, never. It could be like, ask me again in 3 months. But having that direction, having that focus is what I always tell my clients too, because if you have the shiny object syndrome, which so many of us have, if you have a focus, it's so much easier to know what to say yes to and what to say no or not right now to. So for me, having the vision, and I am always, I really believe in the power of manifesting, and you can't manifest something you can't imagine. So the more you can put yourself into that final project. So when I first started doing live events, it was scary. The first thing is like always, what if nobody shows up? What if they show up and they don't like me? What if they show up, listen to me for 2 hours and walk away? You have all of this like, So imagining myself on stage, imagining hundreds of people in the audience, all applauding and all thanking me for what I'm sharing, and just having it and hearing it and feeling it and knowing like, how does it feel in your body? How does it make me feel just in general? Having that energy helps you really like put all of the effort and action to make this happen. But because you have this positive visualization, if you want, of what you want to achieve, and it gives you a focus, and it also helps to manifest it.
Right. Oh, I love that so much. You can really, that it's so true. I mean, if you can't see it, how can you actually get there? And that's the first part of the plan. Sometimes we feel like, oh, I have to have all these different steps. But if you don't actually see the big picture, how is it that you support people that don't actually see the big picture yet?
Well, this is why we want to have coaches. This is why we want to have mentors. And I'm not going to talk about my clients. I'm going to talk about myself. The reason I always have a coach is because I can only see my vision like this. So I would say, I want to have 50 people at my event, and it feels like such a big stretch, and oh my gosh, this is so scary. And he'll be like, no, how about we go for 100? And it's like, But when somebody has a much bigger vision for yourself, I'm like, I don't know how we can do it. I can barely figure out 50. It's like, it's okay, one step at a time. And here's the vision, and here's the little things you can try along the way. And it's like, oh, having 100 people at my event was easy. So you can create your own vision. But I think number one, the reason for my success, or at least one of the top three, is having somebody who can hold a much bigger vision for me or for you than you can have for yourself. So
Right.
your vision is created based on what you are somewhat scared of. Maybe it's a little bit of a stretch, but if you have somebody else pushing you outside of your comfort zone and you trust them enough to go with that, I think that's the most powerful thing.
Yeah, I agree. I've always had a mentor, and it's just so powerful because, you can't always see what's going on. I know one of the things Les Brown always talks about is that you can't see the picture when you're in the frame, right? And so it's just so important to have someone that is looking not only out for you, but they can actually see things in a bigger way than you can see. And, part of that acknowledging, you'd mentioned about, acknowledging your strengths and weaknesses. How does that come into play in designing your life?
Well, it comes both in life and in business. And it's interesting because even in our educational system, it's usually, so if you're really good at math and really poor at, let's say, English, we've always gotten tutors in English. So we've been kind of ingrained in us to strengthen our weaknesses versus emphasizing our strength and then hiring somebody else to do something for you that you're not really good at. So and I think it was when I read Strength Finder for the first time, like 10 years ago, it was like such a big eye-opening for me that now if I look at something and I'm like, this is not me, this is not what I do, this is not part of my character, and I don't, like, it would be a lot of hard work for me to rewire how I think. Right. Instead of me trying to push through it and trying to get better at it, I'd rather spend time on what I'm really, really, really good at versus trying to push myself through stuff that I don't enjoy and I don't like doing. And this is how I build my team. But it's also how I live my life. Like, I hate washing dishes. And I've been married for about 20 years now. And from the very beginning, I'm like, I don't like washing dishes. So my husband stepped into this role. So, and we have this really perfect dynamics because I can cook a whole bunch and then he'll come in and wash all the dishes. So finding what your weaknesses and strengths or what your preferences are, what is your cake versus cringe, what do you really enjoy doing? Because I can cook all day long. Like, if I could cook for a whole 24 hours, not get tired of it because it's a creative process and I like food. But I don't want to touch the dishes. So as long as you have this support mechanism or something in place that will, who doesn't mind doing it, who doesn't feel like it's such a big chore. So it's in business, it's in life, anytime you can spend more time doing what you enjoy, the more happy you're going to be.
Right. Yeah. I like way with travel. Like, I don't like to do any of like the planes and booking of hotels and what we're going to do. And Carrie does all of that stuff. It's so great because all I need to know is, what do I need to pack?
Yes.
So it's helpful to have that.
Mm-hmm.
So,
but it also helps just in general knowing what you're good at, because I work with some people, some of my clients, they're not tech person, they're not tech people, but they're amazing at speaking, they're amazing at connecting, they're amazing at networking. Mm-hmm. So instead of trying to push themselves and like agonizing for hours over creating like a 5-minute opt-in page, like hire someone, get a team, versus I have some people who love technology and they're not really good with people. So maybe they can hire a sales team who's going to talk to people for them, and then they can provide those support services around tech. So knowing what you're good at and knowing what you like doing, it will really help you get to a more successful and profitable business while you're enjoying every minute of doing it.
Right. Well, and speaking of things that you enjoy doing, you are all about the online challenges. And, how did that become your niche, and how is it that people can use that to get clients?
Ooh, how many hours do we have?
Should I pull up a chair?
Yeah, this is definitely a topic I'm very passionate about. And interestingly enough, challenges are not new. Challenge has been around for years. I'm sure everybody has heard, like, let's do 30 days to flatter abs, or like it kind of started in the fitness industry, got really popular about 20 years ago. When I first started with challenges is when I still had my photography business. We would have this whole, let's do 30 days of black and white photos. So let's do 30 days of just portraits or landscapes. So we would challenge ourselves to learn a new technique or try something outside of our usual repertoire and learn from other people. But those were all challenges more done for fun and more done to just for fun for the community. So when I first started my business about 5 years ago, this current business coaching business, I accidentally sort of created a challenge because I knew I needed to create a digital product. I knew that I needed to bring people together and teach them, and creating a program felt like a big task. I wasn't sure how to approach it. So I said, I'm going to create a 21-day challenge, and I'm going to teach people over 21 days how to attract clients on Facebook organically. And overnight, I went from 0 clients because I've struggled for about 3 months up until then. I did strategy sessions. I went to networking events. I did a whole bunch of things. And then I created this challenge. And overnight, I had 43 people in my challenge. And then when that challenge was over, several of them hired me and paid me $2,000 a month. So that was my first big paycheck. That was the first time I'm like, ooh, these challenges work. And then since then, I've learned a lot about what's the right length for the challenges, how to structure them in a way that makes people want to buy something from you, because I advocate now for free challenges versus paid challenges, and it's 5-day challenges versus 30-day challenges. And we can talk about this if you're interested about what and why. But I've been doing challenges in my business for about 2 years before I started teaching it. So I have a program right now, Fast, Easy, and Profitable Online Challenges, and I've had hundreds of people who went through it and successfully created their challenges. Because to me, it's the easiest, the simplest, and the fastest way to attract clients online, and specifically from Facebook, because there's so many different elements that you put together. You're creating a community, you're getting people to try something for fun at no cost, and you get them to fall in love with you, because we are so jaded right now, and we're so often not ready to make the investment. If somebody says, just sign up for my program, it's $5,000. And the challenge, a simple 5-day challenge, gives you that taste, that appetizer of them to trying you, to seeing how you work, how you teach, if they're getting results. And imagine if in 5 days, I have so many people say, I've gotten more results in your 5-day challenges that I've gotten in a year of my business in the last year. Of course, they're ready to work with you after the challenge is over. So, and again,
yeah.
There's so much more I can say about
Yes, I'm sure that, the listeners are going to want to know more about that, and we're going to show them ways to do that. But just quickly here, why 5 days? Why are we looking at that? And then also with all the shifting and changing regulations that happen in Facebook, how is it that you are having, a reach? Because a lot of times people say, like, it maybe is not reaching all the people I know, and then I want to know people that I don't know, and how do they get to know about that? So, it's kind of like that you've built it, but how is it that people are being attracted to even know about the challenge?
Ooh, there's so many different questions on that. So let's start with the first one, 5-day challenge.
Yeah.
So the mistake that people make is making challenges more than a week. So what happens, especially if they're free. So if it's a free challenge, what happens after people go over the weekend, then kind of new week starts and people go, oh, something else got my attention. Right. Now I'm focusing more on this, or something else is coming up. So the drop off after about 5 to 7 days is you losing about half of your active participants in the challenge. So doing anything for 10 days or 20 days or 30 days, even though you kind of think logically it takes 21 days to form a habit, or they need 30 days to practice this. In reality, if you started with 100 people, by the time the 30 days come around, you might only have 2 people actually still opening your emails and doing your challenge. Right. Because they're getting tired of it. They got behind at some point, and now they feel like it's an overwhelming amount of information. And they probably won't want to buy anything from you because they've had a lot of you. So they're like, okay,
overgiving.
Get to the 30 days before I buy anything else, because you've just given me enough assignments or enough little challenges, enough action steps to last me for the next 3 months. So it's great if all you want to do is just have some visibility and just engage people. But that's a lot of work for you and very little payoff. Now, if you're doing 5 days, I wouldn't do anything less than 5 days, because it's just not enough momentum, not enough for people to get to know you. But 5 days is such a golden number if you're doing it for your business, if you want it to be profitable, because it's enough for people to get this, oh my gosh, I accomplished so much in 5 days. And yet they're not fooled. They're not saying, yeah, I've had enough of you. They're saying, what's next? What is the next step? If I accomplish so much in this free challenge, what can I do if I signed up for your program? So does that answer your question?
Yes, it does.
Okay. Now, as far as getting participants in, that's probably number one question I get is how do I promote my challenge? How much of a list do I need to have? Do I need to have a Facebook group? Do I need to have a big, massive online following before I can run a successful challenge? And the answer is no. In reality, running a challenge is what builds your list and what builds your Facebook group and what positions you on Facebook and makes you a visible go-to expert. So I have a lot of people who start with no list, with no Facebook group and no Facebook following to speak of, and they end up with 50, 60, 100, maybe even 200 people in their very first challenge. And there's a lot of elements because you can do Facebook Lives, you can just post and share it among the friends, you can go to other people's groups and if it's allowed, share your promotion there. But there's also social aspect and viral aspect in every challenge because one of the very first thing we do when people sign up for our challenge, we invite them to invite their friends. And we'll say, hey, you just got this really amazing 5-day free training. Don't you have other friends who can benefit from it? And we give them little snippet for saying like, I just signed up for this challenge and I think it would be really fun if you joined me. Here's the link. And up to 30% of people who join the challenge come from people that their friends invite. So even simply, if you just have 50 people in your challenge, you can have like 60, 70, 80 people in your challenge because people are talking about it. Right. So there's lots of different ways. And when people sign up for your challenge, they're actually opting in into, okay, I'll say 3. So the first one is they have to opt into your list because that's how they're going to get their assignments. That's how they're going to get instructions and videos for each day. They have to join your Facebook group because that's where they're going to be communicating with you. That's where they can win prizes for posting their homework. That's where they can ask questions and meet everybody else in the community. And number 3, if you want to get a little bit more advanced, you can invite them to your Facebook Messenger list. This way you can send them reminders of when the videos are up or when you're doing Facebook Lives. So you basically can grow 3 different lists simply by doing 5-day challenge. And then at the end of 5 days, you have hundreds of people who could be ready to buy from you. And I've had, like I was just talking to a lady this morning. She had 110 people on her challenge. She offered a webinar right after the challenge and 75 people signed up for the webinar. And she sold 7 programs at the end. So all basically within a week or so was a little bit of promotion done and you have clients.
Love it. Love it. Well, and one of the things in case, our listeners who may be driving or multitasking, 30% from people who went into a challenge, inviting their friend coming in, right? So it's that classic, it's not who you know, but who they all know, right? And having it, and I think that's sometimes stops people of asking that extra ask, that they've asked somebody, then to have them, invite further with other people they know. So that's a great little insider tip to get that happening. So I love
and basically, probably number one mistake people make when they're ready to run a challenge is they think they need to have a Facebook group first. And so I hear this all the time. I need to start my Facebook group and then I'll run a challenge. In reality, running a challenge creates your Facebook group. So if you have 100 people in your challenge and you invite them all, usually about 80 to 90% of them will join the group. So now you have 90 people in your group. Over that 5-day challenge, they meet each other, they start supporting each other, you have this engagement going on. So now you have a group that's engaged, that's full of your ideal potential clients. And now you can do whatever you wanted to do with that Facebook group, which is the best way to monetize your Facebook presence.
So great. I mean, you're right. We could be speaking here for hours, which is why I know that people are going to want to connect with you. And you have any final thoughts that you'd like to share with our listeners?
In general, Yeah, I would say, because again, I'm so passionate about online challenges. I think it's the fastest and easiest way to get clients on Facebook. As I said, it's the best marketing trend right now. So instead of doing traditional launches that require a huge team, that require a lot of investment upfront, and you have to do the videos and you have to do the series of webinars, and it usually takes about 6 months to prepare it well to have a really good launch. My business, I've never done a traditional launch. I've always done challenge-based launches. I do them 3 times a year, and I have $1 million business. Majority of things that I have are coming from those challenges, and it's simple 5-day challenges. And you can do it if you're just starting out, or you can do it if you've already been in business for a while. It doesn't matter, because they work for any industry and they work for any level of business. So if you are even like, if you're looking for a way to attract clients that works, that's fun, that's practical, that's not going to take, it's very low cost. I can teach you how to do it for under $10, and basically requires no technological knowledge. So it's the fastest and easiest way right now that people are not tired of, that people are excited about. I'm running a challenge right now. Like the last challenge I ran, I had 2,200 people in it. The one I ran in the summer, we had 7,000 people in it. Or I have people who just run them with 50 people and still getting clients and getting results. So just consider it and take a look at it if that's maybe the missing piece of your marketing method.
I love that, right? And this is multiplicity, right? And we come full circle here about taking all the complex and really, adding, the creativity, but having it in a simple way of method to be able to really deliver, everyone's genius in the world. So I think that's just so great. So
Thank
Alina,
you.
how will our listeners be able to stay in contact with you? And I also know you have a free gift for them.
Sure. So the easiest way to get in touch with me and see some of those challenges in practice is join my Facebook group. We have over 22,000 people in it right now. Majority of them come from the challenges, because I always run challenges in the same group. So it's called Business Owners Who Think Big. So you can join it. It's completely free to join, and we do challenges several times a year. If you want to just go and connect with me and connect with other people who follow me. And if you want to start thinking about your own challenge and you want to know what are some of the elements you need to create, what are some of the critical and crucial steps and elements in creating a challenge, I have a guide. It's called Challenge Checklist, and it has all of the pieces that you need to create in order to create a profitable online challenge.
I love it.
And you can go to businesssuccessedge.com. So there's a lot of S's. businesssuccessedge.com/challenge checklist.
Perfect. And we will have all of that in the show notes, so people will be able to grab that in there. And I have one final question that I love to ask my guests, because I think your environment really impacts you in how you feel in your bedroom versus your kitchen versus your office. So what is your favorite room in your home and why?
Ooh, does it have to be one?
No. Let's start with how about your favorite first, and then you can tell me some of your others if you'd like.
Okay, so I would say my favorite is the kitchen, because I think I already shared that I love cooking. It's part of the creative thing where I don't have to think about business and marketing.
Right.
And it's a creative outlet. And we cook so much with my family. I have 2 teenage daughters, and with my husband, and very often on Saturdays or Sundays, it's all 4 of us cooking and cutting and moving. So just the whole energy of togetherness and family. I love it. And my second one would be my backyard. So it's not quite, I'm kind of cheating. So I'm getting too, but we created an amazing sort of oasis in our backyard. We have a waterfall, we have a fire pit. So anytime I just need to unplug or recharge or re-energize, we do fire nights, or just sitting there in a hammock and listening to the waterfall. So my favorite rooms are not where I do the work, it's where I go recharge so I can bring more to my work.
I love that. Oh, that sounds so beautiful. And it's important, and this is an important thing for our listeners, especially when we talk about spa life, about, how do you have that balance and what that looks like? Because, we can talk about business all day long about charging, but if we aren't doing those things that recharge ourselves, that allows us to steep more deeply in our power, then, what are we doing it all for if we can't spend that time with people that we love? And I love that you've created that in your life. So thanks so much for sharing that.
Thank you for asking.
Well, and thank you so much for your time and being here on the show and sharing all of your wisdom. It's so appreciated.
Thanks. Thank you for having me.
Oh, absolutely. And listeners, thank you for your time. I mean, it's the most valuable resource that we all have is that gift of time. And we so appreciate you spending some time here with us. We're going to put all of the things in the show notes so you'll be able to get a hold of us. I'll also have in there my life reset quiz, which will take you just 2 minutes, because having awareness of what's working and not working in your life, all of these kind of tools really support you in moving further along in your life. And also, depending on what format you're watching this on, please put in the comments, what are you taking away from this? What's something that you heard today that you'll be able to implement in your life and shift and change in that way? We'd love to hear about that. So I'd love for you to tag both Alina and myself. Any questions that you have, we're here to support you. We're really here to build community. And just as Alina was talking about, part of the Facebook challenges are building community to be able to support each other and to really grow in our business and in our life. So please subscribe to the show and please share it. Get this out to a message where you heard something that really worked for you. It's just like inviting people to the challenge. It's inviting people to be part of the conversation. And that's how we get out in the world. So please subscribe, please share, please comment, all of the things that we do to bring us together in the community together. And I just want to thank you again so much for your time. And until we connect again, live your spa life. Bye for now. See you.